And now, live from Jerusalem, you're listening to Israel-Inspired Radio. Here are your hosts, Rabbis Ari Abramowitz and Jeremy Gimpel.
Shalom, my friends. You're listening to Israel Inspired on the Land of Israel Network, thelandofisrael.com. This is Ari Abramowitz here, and this will be my last broadcast before Pesach. Now, I have had so many thoughts, insights, reflections about all of this, but like many of you, this has been a very internal and introspective time in which we're all sequestered into the vortexes of our own homes. And whenever Ari's inner voice starts shouting, "You need to broadcast, you need to share all you have to say about this," I hear another voice in the recesses of my soul that says, "Ari, this isn't about you. Hashem is doing something in the world, and it's going to happen with or without any of your involvement." And you know which words actually periodically wash over me? The words Hashem yilachem lachem v'atem tacharishun. Hashem will do battle for you, and you will remain silent. Now, these are very relevant words. These are words that were first spoken to the nation of Israel at the parting of the Red Sea, before the greatest intervention in the natural order in all of world history, where God single-handedly destroyed the greatest superpower in the world to redeem a nation of slaves and make them his own nation. And the nature was so strongly and powerfully intervened upon that there was really nothing left for the nation of Israel to do. It wasn't a time for action at that point. Hashem was fully taking control right then. And so these words have been soothing me. They've been comforting me. They've been reminding me that Hashem is in charge and that I need to turn my heart to him and not to feel pressured to shout anything specific from the rooftops. Because I've been feeling a lot of pressure that certain things need to be said that I'm not saying, but I just, you know what, Hashem is on that, and Jeremy's on that. Jeremy's been doing that really beautifully. And I'll tell you, on my last show with Jeremy, I proclaimed that this Passover is going to be historic, is going to be monumental, and I don't really think that that is debatable. But I want to add one word to those descriptions, and that word is revolutionary. This Seder is going to be revolutionary. And what do I mean by revolutionary? I mean it in the strictest definition of the word revolution. What is a revolution? The dictionary definition is like a revolution is like the movement of an object around a center, the revolution of the earth around the sun. This Pesach, we're returning and reliving our origin story. We're going back to the very beginning. It's a revolution. And I mean, think about it. Since the first Seder in history, we haven't been locked in our homes as a plague ravages the world around us. There was a decree, an edict. We weren't allowed to leave our homes in Egypt. And there was just Netanyahu, and the government just came out with an edict with the exact same edict. Who could have ever thought of such a thing? I mean, that's the times we're in. Locusts are expected to swarm throughout the Middle East, minus Israel, of course. There was just an earthquake in Eilat, and seismologists are expecting more soon, which of course is reminiscent to the prophet Zechariah that talks about a great earthquake happening. It's just hard not to see and feel God's hand in everything that's going on here. So the underlying principle here at play is ma'aseh avot siman lebanim, that the actions of the father are a sign for the children, or even more specifically, that the redemption from Egypt is a sign or a blueprint of the final redemption. So Jeremy's gone into this in great detail, and I'm sure many of you have encountered this also during your time of quarantine in your homes. But of course, for me, the Baal HaTurim from 750 years ago, it was very powerful, where he says that that the final redemption will resemble the redemption from Egypt in that we will not be able to leave our doorsteps. You know, it isn't just an abstract theological parallels that we're seeing coming about before our eyes. It's like sensory overload for me. There's so many things falling into place and manifesting before our eyes. But really, these prophecies from thousands of years ago, the reality has presented itself to guide us, to inform us, to strengthen us, to encourage us, to help us bring the powerful light out of the darkness in the world. That's why those prophecies happen, because during these times, they're going to be so scary and disorienting that we'll have the words of our prophets to hold on to as like a light for our feet, ner l'ragleinu. And, to remind us of that time of the Exodus from Egypt. There were plagues, death, fear. Everyone was afraid. But knowing how the story played out, we now know that in Egypt, we were as a family. We were a tired, beaten family of slaves. We went in there, the children of Jacob, 70 of us, and we were a family of slaves in Egypt. And that incarnation of us in Egypt died there. But as we passed through the birth canal of the parting of the Yam Suf, we were born into a new incarnation, a new reality. We were born as a nation of royalty, no longer slaves to any man, but it was slaves to Hashem himself. And so right now, this feels like we're going through a similar upheaval. And intuitively, we know that things will never be the same. So we have to not grasp at returning to the way things were. But we have to open our minds and our hearts to a new reality that is gradually presenting itself to us. And we need to realize that all the pain that we are going through, all of this fear is going to be, I really believe this in my heart, it's a small price to pay for the evolved state of consciousness which will result from all of this. We're experiencing the birth of something much greater and more beautiful than what we've come from. But we're just experiencing the birth pangs right now. So here's the point I want to focus on. The sages of Israel tell us that just as in Egypt, only 20% of Israel actually experienced redemption. 4/5 of them died in Egypt. Now, here's the way I understand it. Who were those 20% who were redeemed? Well, on an action level, as we spoke about in the last show, they were the 20% who slaughtered the lamb, the god of the Egyptians, and put its blood on their doorposts, risking their own execution if the promised redemption didn't transpire. But on an emotional level, who were these Jews really? I think they were the ones who had the strength and the courage to be able to see things differently, to be able to entertain a different reality, to see the Egyptians, their invincible oppressors, as spineless degenerates, as the abusers that they were, to see themselves not as helpless slaves, but as free men, even royalty. Even while their physical bodies were still in Egypt, under oppression of Egypt, they still were able to see themselves as royalty, as free men. And also to see Hashem differently, not as a passive theoretical deity for whom they perform these abstract rituals and mumble certain liturgical words, but as an El Chai V'Kayam, a living God, the living God of Israel, who loves his people, who's always with us, who is with us throughout all of the slavery and all the pain that we endured, and is orchestrating every event in our personal and national lives for the benefit of us, for our benefit, for his love for us. Okay, so now I've been reading through this special Haggadah. It's called The Night That Unites. And it's got Torahs from Rav Kook, Rav Shlomo Karlbach, and Rav Soloveitchik. I highly recommend it. And in this Haggadah, Rav Shlomo brought a teaching from the Ishbitzer Rebbe. And it's so relevant to us right now in these times. He shows that immediately preceding the commandment to celebrate Pesach is the command not to worship idols, which the Torah calls in Hebrew Elohei Masecha. So the question is, why are they juxtaposed to each other? Not to worship idols and the laws of Passover, the law to celebrate Passover. So the Ishbitzer Rebbe says that the idea of a masecha, what is it in Hebrew? It's a mask. And what is a mask? A mask suggests a person's inability to change. An image on a mask is permanent. It can't be changed. And so we can't have this inability to change even these hardwired perspectives that we have on the world, hardwired, deeply founded beliefs. We have to be, Rabbi Nachman says we always have to be young, we can't get old. I think that's what he means by that that when you get old, you become fixed, like the face on a mask. We have to maintain our ability to constantly shift the way we see the world, the way we see ourselves. We have to be able to entertain the possibility that there could be changes within us that come from above, that God places within us. If we don't entertain that possibility, if we don't have that faith, then we won't have the vessels to be receiving the light that this Passover has to offer. You know, Tehillah Gimpel, Jeremy's wife, she brought up a very interesting question. She said that the clergy everywhere are praying for this plague to end. But is that really the goal? She asked. She was saying, if we know with complete surety that this is all from Hashem, then our prayer should be that we're able to hear what he's trying to teach us and to change ourselves in the requisite ways, that we should be successful in repenting. That's the word that, is often used, but it really means returning before Hashem, and to have grown and evolved based on our experience during all of this. Not to pray for it to be over, but to pray for it to be no longer necessary. That's the idea. To change ourselves, not to say, Hashem, take this away. If he's sending this to us into the world, it's for a reason, for a positive reason, for out of compassion. And when I look at the way this could have been, just imagine, instead of attacking the elderly, which is, of course, devastating. We love our grandparents. We love our parents. Imagine that it was children. Imagine the devastation and the horror. There's a lot of mercy built into this plague, but at the same time, there's also a lot of deen, a lot of judgment. And we need to be able to open our hearts and receive the growth to get from this. But we need to turn our hearts to Hashem. Because listen, we know Hashem is behind this. He's orchestrating this. Tehillah went on to point out that if we look at this period of time, what would most exemplify and symbolize this experience? Think about it for a second. What is the symbol, the image that would really bring together this whole period that we're going through? The answer, I think, is it would be the face mask. It would be that they just mandated this in Israel. It's law that we have to wear the face mask. Now, in Devarim 31 in verse 18, Hashem says, "Va'anochi haster astir et panai," and I will surely hide my face in that day because of all the evils which they have done, in that they have turned to other gods. And when did this mask thing really begin? Tehillah explained, on Purim. Purim is when we really had to start wearing the masks. And what do we do on Purim? On Purim, we wear masks. And why do we wear these masks on the deepest level? What's the reason that we wear them? To remember that Hashem is running the world, and he uses nature as a mask. He uses this world as a mask. The world, olam, means hidden. Hashem is hiding behind it. He's hiding his face behind the natural laws within this world, and it's his mask. And to use something like this virus, particularly something like this virus, it's so meaningful in and of itself. It's invisible to the naked eye. It's humbled us. It's brought the entire world to our knees. And so if he's hiding his face from us because we've turned it to other gods, the gods of our own making, our own idols that we've put our own faith in, whether it's money, whether it's foreign powers, whether it's even the power of our own hands. If that's why Hashem is hiding his face from us, and we're hiding ours, well, then we need to shatter these idols, and we need to discard these gods, and we need to turn back to Hashem. The Karliner Rebbe taught that when we say that we're supposed to nullify any remaining chametz that we have, belibo. It says we're supposed to mevatel belibo, in our hearts. Meaning that in our hearts and our minds, that's how I've always read it, we're supposed to say that whatever is left that we have that we didn't find, it's nullified. It doesn't exist. But he says that when we say mevatel belibo, we don't just mean to nullify it in our hearts, but to nullify it with our hearts. That we need to actually use the power of our hearts, of our neshamas, to nullify this chametz. It's not just words that we say, but it's an active process within. So Rav Kook explains that what is this chametz in our hearts? It's anything that limits or suppresses our freedom, or the freedom of our neshama. Slavery is when our kedusha, our holiness, when our nobility is oppressed and our divine image can't emerge. So we need to look within and we need to seek that understanding. What are our fears? What are the idols that we have in our hearts that we're too afraid to destroy? What are those fears that are preventing us from truly living, from living a life of vitality and passion? We can either have one of two primary emotions in this world, fear or desire. What is it preventing us from living a life of passion and pursuing our destiny, of having our lives of desire? So in my mind, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to fears. We all have them, but we don't necessarily know how to overcome them. Some of us can't even identify them so much because it's become so weaved in the fabric of our consciousness, of our identity, that we don't even realize that we have them, let alone how to overcome them, how to neutralize them, how to shatter those fears. So while we're looking for chametz in our house, we need to be looking also within. What are our fears? What are the things that we need to shatter? Because that's where the word Egypt comes from. Mitzrayim comes from me tsarim, meaning the narrow straits. That when we nurture fears in our heart, it does something to the prism through which we see the world. It constricts the world to narrow straits, to a place of finite scarcity. That's what fear does to the mind. It fogs the vision and it prevents us from seeing the multitude of opportunities around us, of all the possibilities around us. And all we see is just these narrow straits from which it feels like there's just no way out. It's such a beautiful teaching from Rav Biederman. I may have actually shared it before. Forgive me if I did. But it's one of those things that just goes through my mind, not infrequently. And it's in Psalm 118, Kuf Yud Chet, in Tehillim, where King David calls out, Min ha-meitzar karatayah, aneni b'merchaviyah, which we usually read as, from the narrow straits, Min ha-meitzar, from right Mitzrayim we spoke about, from the narrow straits, I call out to you, Hashem. Answer me from a place of expansiveness, right? Answer me from a place of abundance. But what's another beautiful way of reading that? From the narrow straits, I call out to you, Hashem. And Hashem answers. You are in an expansive place. You are in a place of abundance. You just don't see it. Min ha-meitzar karataya aneni b'merchavya. That's the answer. Hashem is answering us. You are in a place of abundance. These are scary times. We're in unprecedented times, and unprecedented times can have unprecedented consequences. And none of us really know what can happen now. Even in the U.S., where the economy has unraveled so dramatically that in just weeks, it's already dipped far below the Great Depression. We're in uncharted territory here, and that's a scary thing. But on Seder night, I want to bless all of you. I bless myself. I bless all of Israel. I bless the world. That we should be able to absorb and channel the light of redemption coming into the world. That we should have the courage and the faith to shatter our idols and to dispel our fears and to bask in the divine light as truly free. True freedom. I'm not sure if any of us have ever really, truly felt that before. And so I want to end by sharing two beautiful messages. One is from a Rabbi Penner. The truth is, I don't know so much about him, but he's a rabbi in a synagogue in Queens, New York, and at Yeshiva University. But I'll tell you, out of all of the links and the forewords I received during these weeks, this was the one that hit me the deepest. So I wanted to share that with you. And that will be immediately followed by a message that was just sent to me the other night by Rabbi Micha Hyman. He's a friend of mine from my teenage years in Houston, Texas, who went on to be among the most beloved rabbis in Machon Meir Yeshiva in Jerusalem. So I'm going to leave you with these two messages and with a blessing from Israel, from Jerusalem, from the hills of Judea, from the Judean frontier, that this should be the very last Passover Seder we have before the building of the temple. And of course, you know, the temple, it's not a building. It's not some abstract theological slaughterhouse. It's a relationship with God. And it is a symbol of the brotherhood and the unity of all of mankind. And, you know, perceptions are already shifting. The reality of our world is going through a metamorphosis. And as the chicken grows, the egg decays. And let us have our eyes on what is growing within all of this seeming chaos of this coronavirus taking over the world, because something truly beautiful and magnificent is waiting on the other side. So shalom, shalom, stay strong, Stay connected. My email is ari@thelandofisrael.com. And we're here for you if you need anything. We need to be together, strong as brothers and as friends, as family during these times.
I'm going to share something. I don't get much out of davening at the Kosel. It's too many people. I know you may be surprised to hear this. I'm not a people person. It's too many people. It's outdoors. It's a balagan. I don't always yearn to be there, to be in the Beis Hamikdash. But today I do. What's happened over the last 2 weeks? I can't go to Eretz Yisrael. I can't go even if Mashiach comes. I don't know what I'll do because of my business. What business? If we have a business, it's because we can do it from anywhere in the world. I can't go because I'm so connected to my community and my shul. What shul? I can't step foot in my shul right now. But I have to be near my yeshiva. My yeshiva is now accessible from anywhere in the world. I can't leave because I need to be near my family. Even if I'm here, I can't be near my family. I miss my grandchildren so much. I'm not able to be with them and hug them. There are no more excuses. We've spent 2 weeks inside. And what's grown within us over the last 2 weeks is that we want to be together with other Jews. We want to be worshiping together with other Jews. We want to be able to take a plane to Eretz Yisrael. And even though it's so much easier now to go to Eretz Yisrael in our day than it ever was before, this is the first time in so long that a Jew absolutely can't get to Eretz Yisrael. The Seder is a yearly reminder that we need to want it. It needs to build up within us. The Kos of Eliyahu is there because Eliyahu is going to give us a day. He's going to give us a period. He's going to give us a time where we truly yearn for the Mashiach. We truly yearn to follow him. I believe in so many ways that Eliyahu is here. Eliyahu has made us want Mashiach. 2 weeks ago, if the news said that Mashiach had come, our first reaction would be, how am I going to move everything? And how am I going to disrupt my whole life to go? Our lives have been disrupted. If Mashiach came tomorrow, we would run out of our homes so fast and follow him to Eretz Yisrael. One of the things we'll be asked when we get to Shemayim is Tzipisa Yeshua. A strange question. Did you want to go? Did you yearn for the times of Mashiach? Why do I have to yearn for it? I just need to go when the time comes. Because if I don't yearn for it, I'll miss the moment. If I don't hold on to these feelings, whether Mashiach comes now or it comes later in our lifetimes, if we don't hold on to these feelings, then he'll come and we won't be ready. Rabbosai, Eliyahu doesn't knock on the door. He doesn't ring the doorbell. We have to open the door for him. These last 2 weeks has opened up our hearts to Eliyahu and his message, to want more badly than we've ever wanted, to go together to Eretz Yisrael, to daven together in the Beis Hamikdash. May we see it soon in our days.
Erev Tov, dear friends. There's something very, very special happening this year on Pesach, which hasn't happened ever in history except for the first Pesach. And that is that we're all going to be in our houses, mamish in our houses though. The Pasuk says in Parshas Bo, in Perek Yud Beis, Pasuk Kaf Beis, the 22nd Pasuk of the 12th chapter, the Pasuk says, "Vatem lo tetzu ish mipetach beito ad boker," that and you each person should not leave the entrance of your house until the morning. Right? We know that they put the blood of the Korban Pesach on the doorposts, and Malach HaMavet, the angel of death, was going around and killing the firstborn, and therefore that they were not allowed to leave the houses on the night of Pesach Mitzrayim, the first Pesach. And now I just saw that the Israeli government has decided that there's going to be a curfew in Eretz Yisrael, that no one is allowed to leave their houses. Mamish, not even allowed to go outside of your houses after a certain time on Leila Seder. There's never been such a thing. There's never been such a thing since the time of the first Pesach. Now, if you look a few psukim before, in Pasuk Chet, if you look at the commentary of the Baal HaTurim, he says something amazing. It's a relatively long Baal HaTurim, and he says at the end, he says, "The itkash geula achrona legeula rishona." There's a connection between the first geula, meaning when we left Mitzrayim, to the final geula, the geula that we're waiting for every day. And it's specifically in regards to the concept of not leaving the house, which is a very interesting thing. He brings 4 places where we weren't allowed to leave. The Beit HaMikdash, or our houses in Pesach, and he says that in that regard, there's going to be the same thing. Apparently, that's what it says in the Baal HaTurim. It's going to be the same thing in the final redemption as it was in the first redemption, that we're not going to be able to leave our houses. And it's such an interesting thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing right now. And on one hand, like I left a message a couple nights ago about why does Hashem want us cooped up in our houses? But I think that there's even another point that can be made here, which is something that can strengthen us so much. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, before He physically took us out of Mitzrayim, before we were able to actually leave that physical place, that miserable, disgusting place, which was ancient Egypt, that we had to be able to come out of our own Egypt inside first. You can't actually come out of physical bondage, out of your physical situation, unless you're really in your heart, you're really a free man. And that you can only do inside. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's so many, outside represents distraction, and inside represents the true us. The inside, you can't escape from yourself. And here we're going to be on this Leil HaSeder, every single person with their own family, without the loud, and although it's fun and beautiful to be with our extended family, but without that this year. Just your family, your closest relatives, and Mom's going to be with you in the house, and without the distraction of all that family and all that, the family customs and all the family, the roles that everybody plays when the family gets all together. It's just us, bare bones, you and your inner kishkis. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, just like when you came out of Mitzrayim that first time, first you had to be a free man. So too now, I want you to become truly free. And it's a little bit easier than it was the first Mitzrayim, in the sense that we don't have to actually run away from a nation of Egyptians that are trying to enslave us. We also have a tradition. We have a few tzaddikim that said this. The Rebbe Rayat said it. There's a 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe, and also Rav Yaakov Moshe Chalap that we've been learning from also said it, and there's been others that said it as well. That even once we left Mitzrayim the first time, so we know already Moshe Rabbeinu knew. The Midrash says that he didn't want to go redeem them the first time because Hashem already told him that there's going to be other exiles after that. It's not the last time that we're going to be exiled. And we have this process of exile and redemption. But there's a major difference between the first exile of Egypt and all future exiles, like the exile, the Galus Edom that we're in right now. And the difference is that in all other future exiles, they can enslave our bodies, they can torture our bodies, they have total control over our bodies, but they don't have control over our neshama. Our neshama, the essence of Am Yisrael, is that we're free men, that we're not bound by any type of psychology, we're not bound by any type of patterns of behavior, our midas, we're not bound by any limiting beliefs or limiting thoughts or limiting relationships or limiting behaviors in relationships. We're not bound by weakness of our spirit. We're free men. And if we ever get caught up in a pattern of slavery, of our own type of slavery, so we have every year, we have Pesach to be able to break free from that. Right? And not only that, but we have a mitzvah to remember Yetziat Mitzrayim every single day. And the Sfarim explain that every single day when we say the Parsha of Tzitzis, right? That I am Hashem who took you out of the land of Egypt. Every day we have a mitzvah to remember that. And the concept of remembering that is not just to remember some ancient event. And that's like why so many Jews, they come to Leil Seder and they're like, what's going on? Like, why all this business? Why so much trouble just to remember some ancient event that happened to our forefathers so long ago? That's not the concept. The concept is that you have to know it's applicable to you today, that you have your Mitzrayim and you can come out of it. You're not a slave. Stop thinking that you're a slave. You have to drop your slave mentality and come free. It's not as much work as you think. You just have to get up and go. You have to realize that you're not Egyptian. You're not shaykh to this place. This place is not yours. I'm talking about the spiritual place, the figurative place. And you can go up. So if we have a mitzvah every day and every night to remember the coming out of Mitzrayim in order to remind ourselves of that koach, so then the question is asked, so why do we need a Leil Seder bichlal? If the whole purpose of Leil Seder is to remind ourselves of that ability to come out, so why do we need a Leil Seder if we're already doing it all throughout the year? So one answer is that because maybe we're not really doing it with our full hearts. But the deeper answer is that every day we need a little bit of a reminder. A little bit of a reminder should be enough each time to remind ourselves and shake ourselves out of that bondage in each particular day and whatever's going on in our lives. Each one of us as an individual and collectively, Am Yisrael. But that reminder is only enough if we had one night where we mamish experienced it down into our toes. And that's why it says in the Haggadah, on this night, a person has to see himself as if he came from Mitzrayim. And here we have something very, very interesting. The Rambam's version of the Haggadah doesn't say to see himself as if he came out of Mitzrayim, but it says to show himself. On this night, Chayav Adam, every single person has an obligation to show himself that he mamish came out of Mitzrayim. So you would think that like the way that we should celebrate that is that we should like reenact it. You know, we should get up, we should go into the desert and like, you know, go split the sea somehow. I don't know. Some type of like enactment of actually physically coming out of Mitzrayim. But that's not the point. The point is you have to show yourself that there's nothing in the world that can bind you, that can hold you down. And the only place that you can truly do that is inside the walls of your own house, inside the walls of your own neshama and in your heart, inside the walls of your relationships with your own family. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us this amazing experience this year that we're going to have. And Be'ez Hashem, our mom is going to come out and go up to Yerushalayim to be able to celebrate Pesach together there. But he's giving us this experience that there's never been anything like this. The only precedent that we have is the actual time we came out of Mitzrayim, right? To connect us to Hashem. It's almost like Hashem is trying to bypass all the other years of Pesach, so to speak, that we have like the memories of and all of our customs with our own family and, you know, whatever Pesach has become in our life as a part of our yearly cycle, so to speak. But Hashem is saying, I want it to be much, much more than just part of your yearly cycle. I want it to be something that just like when you came out of Mitzrayim that first time, it was so unbelievably earth changing, like the entire world was a different place after that. The Torah came down to Yisrael. Am Yisrael became a nation. Every Yid, that's everything that we do is Zecher Yetzias Mitzrayim, because that was like the beginning of everything. So Hashem is saying, like, I want you to have a new start, a totally new start, not just a new start part of your year, just like Pesach has been part of your year all the other years. Hashem is saying, like, just like it was so monumental and such a fundamental change in the fabric of the reality that first time, I want that to be for you again now. And maybe that's what the Baal HaTurim is alluding to when he says that Iskash that final redemption is going to be just like that first redemption. It's not just that Pesach is like the first Pesach. He calls it the Geula, the redemption, the final redemption. The mom is going to be exactly like that one, that we can't leave our house. It seems so interesting. Like, why not? What is it? Shaykh, to not leave the house. Because before you do anything, you need to undergo that change in yourself. You need to feel it deep in your kishkis. It has to be, you have to be real with it. You have to be ready for it. You have to be able to allow it to seep in to the very finest and most internal and essential parts of you before you allow it, before it spreads out to all the other parts of your life and all the other relationships and all the other avenues and aspects and categories of your life. So B'ezrat Hashem, together, let's embrace this amazing opportunity that we're going to have this Pesach, which is something that we haven't had for all these years, 3,000 some odd years. And B'ezrat Hashem, let's undergo these changes in the most deepest and most fundamental ways that we've ever done before. And mamish, let's come out a totally different person. I'll just end with one more point that I saw that Tzvi Meir Zilverberg brings, that the Sfarim Mekadoshim say that, like it says in the Zohar Kadosh, that the power of eating matzah is it's so potent that it can mamish change a person entirely. It's called michla de meimanusa. It's called the food of emunah. When you eat matzah, it changes you. It elevates you in such a way that it has the same kedusha, says the Zohar, as the man. When we ate the manna in the desert, the man, and one of the commentaries there, it says, why was it called man? The pasuk says, ki lo yadu manhu. Then they didn't know what it was. And one of the commentaries, I can't remember who now, I think maybe the Bnei Yissaschar, says that when a person would eat the man, they would become so elevated because they're eating this heavenly bread, and it's not because the bread was actually physiologically doing something to them. It's because when you realize that your bread, when you realize 100% that your bread is coming only from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you don't have any doubt about that whatsoever, so then you eat it in such a different way, and you are such a different person, and you appreciate it, and you live in such a different way that you're unrecognizable from before. So when it says that they didn't know what it was, what they're saying is they couldn't recognize the person after they ate it. They ate this man and they were so changed. Comes Leila Seder, we eat our matzah. And here's the night where we say, Ribono Shel Olam, it's not just that you took us out of Mitzrayim, it's that every single moment of our life, you've been there with us, and that now everything is coming together throughout this whole long journey. And just like you took us out that first time, you're taking us out again. You want to take us out again. And you're with us. So then when a person has that realization, then nobody can recognize you. You're such a changed person. You're such an elevated person. And that in itself is the true Geula. And once we can go through that inner Geula, Dafka in our house is not to leave the entrance of our house. So in B'ezrat Hashem, we should be zocheh together to celebrate the ultimate Geula with all of Am Yisrael in the whole world, B'ezrat Hashem.
Ready for the most important Passover of your life? Tune in as Jeremy Gimpel talks about the secret patterns of redemption encoded in the Passover story.
We are for the first time celebrating Passover as we did in Egypt. There's no big Passover Seders. There's no extended family, no friends. Each insular family is behind closed doors with a plague outside. And all we have is our wife and our children and our mezuzahs serving as our protection at our front door.
Check out the full show on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com.